You know, car audio certainly has changed quite a bit over the years, but there are a couple things that ring true, and that is we want value packed performance, and we got to do it in a small form factor because let's face it, the days of yesteryear of taking up the entire trunk, well, might not just be so practical today. Hertz Audio thinks they've come up with a solution with some brand new products we're going to talk about on today's show, and we've got the man joining us, Ken Ward, to tell us all the details. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM, all about Hertz Audio. And it starts now. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. We're talking Hertz Audio, the brand from Italy. Yes, the folks at Electromedia, which I have to say have been really busy and hard at work innovating, coming up with new products to introduce to the market that are not only value-packed, but feature-packed with some items that you might not see at this price point. What am I talking about? Well, let's ask the man himself. Ken, what are we going to be discussing on today's show?
Hey, Ben, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk about these too, because you're right. We did pack a lot of value in there, and I can't wait to get started.
All right, Ken, we're going to get into it, but first, an opportunity for our partner, SiriusXM, to remind you dealers out there why SiriusXM is always an amazing add-on sale. And when we come back, let's talk about some new gear from Hertz Audio. Don't you dare go away.
Hi, Paul Truman here with SiriusXM. We reached out to some of our partners in the industry, and here's what they had to say.
I can't say more or enough about just what it means to have our unit working with SiriusXM. It's like we're there now.
The SiriusXM service is something consumers want, right? So it's full.
That allows a consumer to listen to either podcasts, entertainment, sports, all at their fingertips. It's all about engagement, and that's what SiriusXM provides.
SiriusXM is a huge component in a vehicle nowadays. Consumers expect that technology to be available both in our OEM system as well as the aftermarket upgrades that they're applying to their vehicle.
Alpine and SiriusXM, through our electronics, are able to offer the consumer on the aftermarket side SiriusXM 360L, which is an expanded platform for SiriusXM. And it's really been a beneficial relationship for us with SiriusXM.
As a dealer, just remember, we don't compete with anybody else. We are absolutely one of the best profitability accessories you can add to any head unit that is SiriusXM ready.
All right, welcome back to the show. We're talking Hertz Audio with our guest, Ken Ward. Now, Ken, pretty exciting stuff. We're going to start off real quick here with the lineup called Dieci. So Dieci, within the Hertz Audio lineup, there are some new amplifiers that are kind of causing some buzz, and I think it's got a lot to do with the amazing value that you're going to get out of these because, let's be honest, what we're about to show you guys might shock you as far as what these little bad boys can do. So, Ken, please tell us about the new Dieci amplifiers.
Well, Ben, you're absolutely right. When I finally got to see what we had fit into these amplifiers, I was surprised, and I think you will be too. So let's take a look at these new amplifiers and show you what we've got. Here are two of the four models. The model on the right is the subwoofer amplifier. It's 500 watts into 2 ohms. Because it's a subwoofer amplifier, it isn't rated high res, but the other 3 models are. Now, you can see on this end, we've got the preamp inputs. It's got a buffered output. It's got a subwoofer knob option. It's got a subsonic filter, a low pass filter, a bass boost EQ, and all of those things are things that you're usually used to seeing in more expensive models. Now, if you look at the speaker level out on the other end and the power in, you can see that all the connections are underneath the overhang. They're out of the way. The design, it doesn't expose the connections to make them vulnerable when they're put underneath the seat. Now, some things you can't see. Our amplifiers have speaker level input. We think that's really important for the market. And our speaker level input on these can go up to 40 volts, which means even in the most powerful European premium systems, we don't need an external attenuator. We also have our DC turn on, so we can turn on with most factory audio systems without a separate wire. And we have universal speaker simulator circuitry. That simply means you'll never have to figure out what resistor is needed to keep the factory system playing. We take care of that automatically. You take that and add in the high res, our 2 4-channel models, our stereo model, and the subwoofer. And I think you can say that at these prices, these are hard to beat.
Well, first off, Ken, I got to say, as you were presenting these models, You literally scratched off almost every question I had to ask for you because at the end of the day, the feature set that you just went through is not typical at this price point. I love the fact that Electromedia has recognized that more and more as we move forward, integration is going to be key. Getting that high level input is obviously going to be a very important feature. But more than that, seeing the actual to the extent of which how many volts you can take in opens up a world of opportunity and compatibility with many different types of vehicles that have that high voltage factory output. Now, the other thing I will say here is the aesthetics. I mean, I'll tell you, they look way more expensive than they are, that you guys are charging for this. And I think a lot of the design cues have trickled down from some of the higher end models within the Electromedia lineup. So for me, at first glance, I love the footprint. I love the OEM integration capabilities. I love the control, between the bass booster and the USS and all that type of stuff. And just seeing them side by side, what a cute pair to match up for so many situations.
As you know, I love to explain how product works and I love to explain why it's a great fit for the application. But one of the things that industrial design does is it communicates the value much more quickly than me talking. And one of the things that I love about working with Hertz is that the product's industrial design is considered from day one so that people experience the quality in more than one of their senses.
All right, so there you go. Really impressive, brand new Dieci line of amplifiers for you guys. Small footprint, great value, loaded with features. And we're going to continue on this trend of this integration, high value kind of conversation we're having, Ken, because not only are there amplifiers to look at now at Dieci, there's some new subwoofer solutions. More specifically, we're talking compact powered solutions that certainly will help with your integration customers.
Yes, the add a subcategory, as I like to call it, is a part of the business that's been growing for the last few years. And we have one model that replaced a veteran active subwoofer in the Dieci line. And then we came out with an all new model alongside it to solve some problems that we weren't addressing before. So here on the left, you can see our DBA subwoofer that has an 8-inch driver, which you can see. And then on each side, we have a passive radiator. And this allows us to get additional output in a small space. This can go right up against the back seat in a trunk or a cargo area in a hatchback. Now, on the back side, you can see the amplifier section, which has a connector that allows easy removal for if you need space. It has the gain adjustment. It has the low pass filter adjustment. It has a bass boost adjustment. It has a polarity switch. It has a subsonic filter. And also the knob to allow you to remotely control the level of the subwoofer is included in the harness. Now, this category has been well proven. We've been very happy with our performance in this category for years, but we did find cars where there just wasn't space for this subwoofer. And so we've come out with its sibling on the right. The 201F is our flat subwoofer. This is a cast aluminum enclosure with a very, very shallow 200 millimeter woofer. It has the same amplifier, as you can see on the end, as the Big Brother, 440 watts of peak power, but it's got a circuit in it to manage that flat subwoofer to keep it from bottoming out. So it is actually going to have a different sound. But this one here also has speaker level input. It also has speaker level turn on. It has the same feature set as its sibling, but it will fit underneath many seats. And we've had great response on this subwoofer from dealers who have received it and installed it already around the world.
I'm going to be honest with you, Ken. When these type of enclosures first started coming out, I'm going to raise my hand and say I was one of the skeptics. No, in fact, I was one of the haters. I was like, come on, are you serious? You're going to try to squeeze bass out of this little Kleenex box size enclosure? I'm going to take my words back because this category has become quite critical in our sales. You're right. You mentioned it there. Space is of a concern. Now, the first model that you showed was already tiny, and I want to applaud the extra passive radiators. I think that's a smart use of space to try to optimize the output from such a small enclosure. And I know that the power coming from that amplifier is going to be more than enough to handle that. But I do want to focus in on that little guy because I've seen a couple of these come through, Ken. Man, looks to me, just without having it in front of me and taking out a ruler, as one of the smallest active underseat enclosures I've seen, and yet you've somehow managed to fit an 8-inch driver in there. So I want to hear your thoughts on this one a little bit more. Is this going to be something that people are going to say, "Wow, I really feel the difference," or is it a mild kind of upgrade?
Well, Ben, that's a great question. And I'm going to compare it to home audio. In home audio, we had surround sound systems for many years that had individual speakers that went around the room, and then sound bars came along. And when sound bars came along, I listened to them. They didn't thrill me, but it turns out that they solved the problem for an awful lot of people. And so that's how I look at these subwoofers. They're not what I'm going to use most of the time. I'm going to go to something that's higher performance, but there are plenty of people who want to have something easier and more accessible, and this is going to fit the bill for them.
All right, great new product coming to you from Hertz Audio, and the Dieci lineup really solves a lot of integration issues. We're going to take a step up in the lineup and get into the Cento line. More specifically, we're going to start with a new set of speakers called the Cento Pro Series. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the Hertz Audio line, Dieci is kind of the starting point. When you move up to Cento, it really allows you to build a system that is scalable. I'm going to let Ken kind of talk about the specifics, but there's a lot of cool features about these new Cento Pro speakers.
Yeah, Ben, a lot of dealers, their first experience with Hertz car audio was the high energy line from years ago. I remember I tried those out in my car and I really liked them. And Cento Pro is really the heir to that high energy line. It contains a lot of the efficiency, a lot of the high output with low power that you can get from Cento and Dieci, but it also has a lot of power handling, and it can work. You can get even more value when you connect it to a higher power amplifier. The Cento Pro series has a few different drivers in it, and we can take a look at those, and we can talk about some of the things that make them different. Now, the Cento Pro kit on the left is a 6.5 and a tweeter. And a 6.5 and a tweeter is the most common component set in the car audio industry. But most of the time, these are limited in two ways. The first one's in the bass. A 6.5 is not going to replace a subwoofer, but this woofer has a little bit more depth. It has a little bit more excursion, so it can play low enough to blend well with a true subwoofer if you have one. You can see it's deeper than a lot of lower cost speakers, and that allows the cone to have more excursion. We also have a stamped frame, which helps us keep the cost down and makes it a little easier to install in certain situations. The vent on the back of the magnet is rare at this price point, but it helps keep the voice coil cool so that when you are using it with an amplifier, it's even more reliable. Now, when you pair this with the tweeter, you may have seen this tweeter before. A version of this tweeter is also used in our Mille Pro speakers and has been for years. And if you look at this tweeter from the side, you can see it's a little bit deeper. It's got a tuned chamber on the back, which helps extend the low end of the tweeter a little bit. We're really well known for letting our tweeters play lower than most people. And in order to support that, we have to build a beefier tweeter than most people. So the crossover point on this kit, if memory serves, is 2800 Hertz or 2500 Hertz actually. And that means that you get a lot better sound in a car in the upper mid-range when you've got those notes coming out of the tweeter instead of trying to come out of a 6.5. Now, there's a passive crossover in the kit. You can see it right here. Now, this passive crossover is designed to give you two-way crossovers with plenty of adjustability, and you can fit it anywhere you need to. Now, because of the low crossover point, the parts inside are larger than many crossovers are. We didn't worry about the cost that is incurred when we use a low crossover point because this was designed for sound quality. So if you look on the right, you can see that it's a very similar coaxial to the Cento Pro component that we've been talking about. You've got a good sized tweeter. You've got a Tetalon dome that we use in a lot of our tweeters. And if you look at the side, you can see it's a little bit of a beefier 6.5. It's thick enough to give you some excursion. This is a really good rear fill speaker for cars that don't that need coaxes in the back and need components in the front.
And finally, we're going to round out this conversation because we just talked about the Cento Pro speakers and some of their features and benefits, but of course, they have a companion subwoofer to go with. Now, if you're curious about what these things can do, don't let the aesthetics fool you or come to any conclusions without hearing them, because Ken's going to talk to us a little bit about exactly what the sound signature is for these designed Cento subwoofers.
That's a good point because at this price point, a lot of the entry level subwoofers from brands in the car audio business, they're often what I call one note wonders, where they give you bass at one frequency, but they're not nimble, they're not agile, they don't play different bass notes with equal levels. And so they end up not being musical. And so that's one of the things that I love about the Cento subwoofers. They're not designed to handle incredible amounts of power. They're not designed to have incredible amounts of excursion, although they do have more excursion than most speakers at their price point. They're designed to run on medium power in small enclosures and really round out a music system. And we have 12-inch woofers, we have 10-inch woofers, and we have an 8-inch woofer. They're single voice coil. The 12 and the 10 are available in 4 ohm and 2 ohm. The 12 is if you look at it from the side, you'll see it doesn't have the biggest magnet. And a lot of people who aren't that familiar with how speakers actually work think that magnet size must dictate output. But you can see this is designed to fit in a medium-sized enclosure. The stamped frame has some contour to it to make it stronger compared to the cost incurred with a cast frame. We really like the rigidity of this frame. But I had a dealer who we designed an enclosure for him for 2 of these in a vented box. And he was used to some SPL woofers with just ridiculously sized magnets. He heard the output from these 2 12s and he was blown away. Now, when you look at the 8-inch woofer next to it, you can see it's got some nice design elements, the push pins for the speaker wire, the contour of the frame again to keep the stamped frame as rigid as it could be. And you see the bump on the back plate to allow greater excursion. This is only available in a 4 ohm application. In many situations, you're going to use 2 8-inches. You're going to parallel them for a 2 ohm load. So whether you're trying to do a small 8 in a car with that, so you don't take up any cargo space, and that 8-inch woofer sounds really great. I have one in our Subaru Outback in the back corner, and it's a great sounding speaker. Or you want to build a more traditional subwoofer enclosure with a 12 or 2 12s and give them reasonable amounts of power and get great output. Either way, the Cento line of subwoofers is really going to surprise you when you get those in a car.
All right, Ken, I want to thank you for coming in on today's Connected. We've had the chance to talk about the brand new value-packed Dieci line and a glimpse of some of the Cento product, which is a step up with some really quality components there. What final message do you have for dealers tuning in, kind of interested in maybe discovering more about Hertz Audio?
One of the things that's interesting about Hertz Audio is we have such a wide range. We go all the way from LA Legend all the way to Uno. So some dealers find some models that really work for them and don't always know what else is in the line. And I think this is true, especially with Cento subwoofers. We have some dealers that are really successful at making them sound great on medium power. And then we have some dealers who haven't tried them out yet. So be assured that there's a wide range of solutions from Hertz Audio to help you deliver great sound in a car.
That was Ken Ward speaking to some new products from Hertz Audio, reminding you that truly is a whole catalog of Hertz products waiting to be discovered. Now, if you want to find out more information or details on any of the products covered on today's segment, make sure you head on over to the official Hertz Audio website. And if you happen to be a dealer in Canada tuning in, definitely connect with the folks at Automobility, as they are the official distribution partner for all things Hertz Audio north of the border. Now, my takeaway from this, I have to give it to Hertz on those Dieci products. I literally can check every single feature I can think about when you're thinking about a small footprint, power-packed, value-priced amplifier solution for especially your integration customers. This is going to knock it out of the park with, especially with the high level in rather, with the voltage it can handle, all the different parameters from the crossovers to the bass booster, and the the knob that's also an option as well. I do think those two cute subwoofers are going to solve some problems. And take a closer look at those Cento speakers and subs. According to what Ken said, they definitely punch at higher above their weight class. That's it for this CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM, with over 150 channels in your vehicle. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video on Demand. What you love is on now.